Com. Download the TuneIn app from the Google Play or Apple iOS Store and listen to us on the go. Coming up this morning, polls to begin in less than an hour for the over 34,000 voters in the Kumeru constituency by-elections. We're live there this morning on your election command center with the IGP promising adequate security.
Whenever there's elections and we all have to vote, we all go to one. Whether if the country is in shared, you all will get that part of it which is represented by our tongue. So please, let us be considerate with our utterances and let us speak to facts.
Also this morning, International Monetary Fund to from tomorrow begin engagement with government and players in Ghana's education sector on educational reforms following concerns the free SHS is poorly targeted. Civil society says the meeting is timely for the country's education sector.
Hopefully, there should be a meeting between CSS and the IMF on Wednesday. We are pushing to have an engagement with the Ministry of Finance because we believe that a lot of reviews must be undertaken in the medium-term expenditure framework.
And much later, financial analyst with Dalex Finance Joe Jackson urges caution following renewed justification by NDC flag bearer John Mahama that banking licenses will be restored. In the wake of the IMF bailout and haircuts, meanwhile, banks in the country have just 4 months to submit their plans of recapitalization to the regulator.
Banks, they have been given a period, I think up to September, to submit to us what their recapitalization plans are.
We have details of these stories if you stay with us for the next 10 minutes. A pleasure that you could be a part of this morning's bulletin. I am Eric Mawuena Egbeta. Let's get into the details, and we're starting from the Kumeru constituency in the Ashanti region because over 34,000 voters are in a little under an hour to begin voting to elect a new member of parliament in the by-elections there. The electorate are to decide among 4 candidates who've put themselves up to replace Philip Bazoa, who died while in office. The build-up to the elections has been filled with suspense and drama, with the 2 leading political parties, the NDC and the NPP, turning up the heat in campaigning. While the Electoral Commission has promised a free and fair election, the Ghana Police Service is assured of adequate security in Kumeru in ensuring an incident-free elections. William Evan Sinkum has a wrap of activities there yesterday.
God in his own wisdom decided to make all of us different and yet Ghanaians to come together and make this place a habitable and a better place. No single person of us have more interest in this country than anyone of us. That's why whenever there's elections and we all have to vote, we all go to one. Whether if the country is in shared, you all will get that part of it which is represented by our tongue. So please.
That's the Inspector General of Police, speaking during a meeting with all relevant stakeholders. Let's take you to the Kumeru constituency now. My colleague Ibrahim Abubakar is on standby for us. Ibrahim, talk to us about how the constituency is waking up to its big day.
Well, Mona, we are not seeing the kind of enthusiasm we usually see in the general election, whereby you go to some of the voting centers, you see people in long queues even waiting for the EC officials to set up. Well, we are not seeing those kind of feeling here. But then you come to the various polling centers and you see EC officials. Some are still setting up. Others have already set up waiting for the voting materials to arrive so that 7 o'clock exactly the voting will start. You come to the Kumeru Township, it's a normal day. In fact, more people are even asleep because we've not started witnessing the buzzing activities here. The people are saying, in fact, I engaged 2 people, and some are even telling me they may not be able to vote because today is a working day, and most of them have not attached the seriousness that they attach to the general elections to this one. So basically that is the atmosphere. So if this is to continue, then it is likely we will record a low turnout, but we don't know, maybe going forward in the day, people decide to change their mind and participate in the voting process actively. I've also seen hundreds of police officers together with the IGP currently addressing them, and is deploying them to all the 75 polling stations. And like you already said, the IGP is still reiterating that they will make sure that they provide adequate security for the voting to be conducted in a violence-free manner.
Ibrahim, many thanks. That's Ibrahim Abubakar, and here on your election command center all throughout the morning and throughout the day will be in the Kumewu constituency. Our ears and hands and legs will be there to ensure that all of the details will bring you exclusive details here on your election command center on 3FM 92.7 and all of our media general news platforms. We'll move away from this and talk the International Monetary Fund now, because they will from tomorrow engage government and players in the country's education sector on some reforms. The IMF, among other reforms, is urging the review of the free senior high policy to improve learning outcomes. The fund, in its assessment of the policy as part of the economic bailout program for the country, noted that the government spends close to 4% of its GDP on education, with good results in terms of enrollment. However, the learning outcomes have been poor. Speaking to 3FM, Executive Director of the Africa Education Watch, Kofi Asare, says the meeting will afford civil society the opportunity to peruse the educational reforms in the bailout.
Hopefully, there should be a meeting between CSS and the IMF on Wednesday. We are pushing to have an engagement with the Ministry of Finance before the mid-term budget is read, because we believe that a lot of reviews must be undertaken in the medium-term expenditure framework and also in the mid-year budget, so that some of the cuts will be restored in line with the promises we are seeing here. That, as I'm reading from page 12 of the document, government will they will see a potential improvement of education spending, including strengthening primary education resources.
That's the Executive Director of the Africa Education Watch, Kofi Asare. Let's move away from this time staying still on the International Monetary Fund and its related conversations, because the governor of the central bank, Dr. Ernest Addison, has requested financial institutions to submit their recapitalization plans by end of September. The central bank has reduced the capital adequacy ratio to 10% with hopes of rebuilding capital buffers of banks in the country. We'll hear from Dr. Ernest Addison pretty shortly, but another concern or another question in relation to banking in the country has been the promise by the flag bearer of the NDC, John Mahama, to restore banking licenses, and he yesterday clarified that position, stating that should the NDC return to power, they will restore as much as possible banking licenses of the many banks which were closed during the banking sector cleanup. Or reacting to this, financial analyst with DLX Finance, Joe Jackson, says that despite the clarity, he will still urge caution as the central bank remains the only institution capable of handing out licenses.
The decision to issue a banking license or to withdraw a banking license should come from the central bank. And the central bank should be an independent organization. When we hear comments rooted in politics about issuing and withdrawing licenses, it is uncomfortable because it speaks to the independence of the central bank.
That's financial analyst with DLX Finance, Joe Jackson. Away from matters on finance, a 5-year-old child has died after the weekend's rainstorm collapsed a portion of their home. The surviving brother of the 7-year-old is also currently receiving health care at the Koforidua Central Hospital. The deceased and a 7-year-old sibling were indoors when the incident occurred at Adam Magazine in the New Jabin South Municipality of the Eastern Region. And it becomes another incident of a collapsed building in in the country in the last few weeks. We end with the GBC, that's the Ghana Broadcasting Corporation, and the AFRACA with the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission, because the Director General of the Ghana Broadcasting Corporation, Professor Amin Al-Hassan, he wants the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission to withdraw its letter to the Controller and Accountant General's Department asking it to stop the payment of some allowances to staff of the corporation. The Chief Executive of the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission, as we reported yesterday in a letter, had further instructed that an end allowances to some staff of the company amounting to more than 2 million cedis be refunded. That's it for this morning's edition of the news here on 3FM 92.7. Remember that all throughout today we're in the Kumewu constituency here on your election command center, bringing you exclusive details as to exactly what transpires there. A lot more details if you log on to 3news.com. I am Eric Mawuena Egbeta.